You should have counted before you left. My dad was a tire builder and union organizer in Detroit. At our local bank there was always a sort of conscious condescension by the tellers for blue-collar workers. My dad was in weekly to deposit his check and take cash for the week. He finished one visit, and turned away and walked a few steps. Then turned back to tell her he got the wrong amount of cash. Before he could say a word, she snootily said, "You should have counted before you left my window. I can't do anything for you now." He smiled and nodded and walked out with his extra $50. That was a good week for us. As a reference, gas was 19 cents a gallon at the time. The next week he went to a different teller and waved casually in response at the former teller's frantic motions to see her. Many years ago the same thing happened to me at a bank drive-through window. I counted the money then and there and told the teller that her count was off. She assumed that I was trying to claim that I was short, but in fact I was trying to tell her that she had given me $10 too much. Her reply was, "I don't make mistakes." Okay then. I just drove away. When $50 bank error in your favor really meant something. Cashed an expense check at bank and teller gave me $1,500 too much. I had stepped to the side of the window to count and stepped right back to tell her. Manager walked up to see what the problem was and was very grateful for my honesty. Well, I was thinking they would eventually figure out the shortage and I'd be liable for taking something that was not mine nor entitled to. It was a mistake. Blue collar with the extra greenbacks. Nice. I used to handle deposits for work and exchange cash for rolled coin every day. Despite going several hundred times, the teller gave me too much cash twice, and the second time contacted us about it before I noticed it. Over 400 trips. Less than 3 errors? Seems good to me. 99.5% accuracy is great for anything other than a machine. Reminds of when I went to a pet store to buy supplies, and the total got to around $93. I paid with a $100 bill, and somehow got $93 back in change. I stared at the cashier's hands confused, took it and left with my girlfriend. I told her as we were in the parking lot and my conscience was eating away at me. I essentially paid $7 for $93 worth of cat pet supplies. What made me go back was my realization that the cashier would have been in some amount of trouble if I didn't correct this. I showed him the mistake he made and his eyes went wide open. He was super thankful that I came back and fixed it. I did feel better about my decision. I think if I kept the money, my guilt would have ate away at me for days. When I was in my mid-20s, I worked for a large law firm in the city. One of the tasks was to go to the home office branch of the bank at the ground floor of the building to get petty cash. Learned I could sign a piece of paper and walk with $250,000 cash. I admit I was momentarily tempted, but realized that at my age, if I was to commit such a crime it would have to be min 10 million. End of temptation. But the relevant part was the cashier counted the money in front of me. Then I counted the money in front of her, him. If we both matched, all was good. Didn't count on that. I have experienced bank tellers making mistakes, but never ever experienced a casino cashier of dealer making a count mistake. No saying it never happens, but I do think it's interesting. The teller would have had to stay back hours if her drawer didn't tally. Source: sister was a bank teller. I once went back to a teller to return the $30 extra that she'd accidentally given me. Her boss overheard and fired her on the spot. It was the first week of the first polymer note to go into circulation in Australia. Several brand new, sequential notes had stuck together. I ended up speaking to her union representative and the state HR boss. She kept her job. Her branch manager was demoted. Those notes were later considered a failure and taken out of circulation. The next version was far superior. My wife was a teller in the early 2000s. If she were off by less than $2, she'd be written up. If it happened again or was over $20 to begin with, she'd be fired. Curious how a bank before that would allow a $50 go like that. I was on holiday in Holland and I went to a bank to cash my American Express traveler's checks, which were in Canadian dollars. The teller accidentally gave me the money in USD. There was a rather large discrepancy between the two currencies. They called where I was staying and let me know they made a mistake and that I didn't have to come back to the bank to return the excess funds, but they would appreciate it if I did. So I went back and they were very nice and gave me a pen. This was 1989. You never count your money when you're sittin' at the teller. Definitely needed to count before leaving rolling on the floor laughing. Back in the 80s I played in a band and took the cash pay at the end of the night. I needed smaller bills to divide the money up for all the band members. I went up to the bartender, who normally would have counted the bills, made the change, then counted it out to me. Instead, the club owner stepped up, grabbed my cash as I was handing it to the bartender, and said he would change it in his office. He brought back my smaller bills and handed them to me, then disappeared. I counted the money, and he shorted me. I found him and told him he made a mistake, and he said he would go check. He came back and said he didn't. I ended up taking the hit for the missing cash. Didn't seem fair to make everyone pay for my understandable mistake. What a miserable boss that guy was. Bank error in your favor. Collect $50. Years ago I returned a few items and bought some other items. This store you would just drop your returns to one of the checkouts. I walked in, stopped at the checkout and dropped off the returns. Told the clerk I was going to pick up some items and we could straighten it out then. When I get back I knew my returns were roughly $25 and my purchases were roughly $50, so I would owe $25. She runs the items through and says I owe $5 and change. I question her, so she does it again, and comes with $6 and change. I question it again, saying the return is $25 and the purchase is $50, so I should owe $25. All rough numbers, of course. She does the math for a third time, comes up with $6 again. I look at her funny. She blows up. I pay the $6 and leave. Several years ago England changed their £20 notes. When they were still brand new and didn't have fingerprints and drug residue on them, they would stick together in the ATMs. So if you were very lucky you could make a nice little profit for the day. Hey everybody, Teller 3 is giving out free money.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.